Good morning, everyone. First thing I need to do, I was instructed to make an announcement, and that is that we want to make sure that you have your cell phones off, and so that we don't have any unusual disruptions for this program. And we appreciate that. And C-SPAN is filming this as well, by the way. So I'm proud to say that the Post has been a charter sponsor of the National Book Festival since its inception in 2001. We are enormously proud of our support for this great event. We're proud of its mission. We're proud to be associated with the Library of Congress, which is a keeper of what it rightly calls the world's most comprehensive record of human creativity and knowledge. The Library of Congress, however, is more than a collector of treasured words. With this festival, it seeks to nurture and celebrate remarkable achievements of our time. And here in this pavilion today, it champions history and biography. Now, there can be no better way to launch this program than by introducing the authors of an examination of a central political figure of our time, Hillary Clinton. She could be our next president, or a Clinton campaign could flop. It did happen once before. And it is out of the ashes of that previous campaign that two skilled political reporters, Jonathan Allen and Amie Parnes, pick up Hillary Clinton's story. These are the sorts of storytellers you want: experienced, sourced, astute. Jonathan is the former White House bureau chief for Politico and currently Washington bureau chief for Bloomberg News. And Amie is White House correspondent for The Hill. Their book, HRC, State Secrets and the Rebirth of Hillary Clinton, is the story of her phoenix-like rebirth. Out of the ashes of her stunning defeat in the 2008 Democratic primary, some embers of ambition still burned. Who would have guessed? And as you might have surmised with the Clintons, there were some scores to settle, too. Meantime, her younger rival had a job to offer her, and it's possible that her performance in that job as Secretary of State will make or break a campaign. The Washington Post's review of HRC called it deeply reported and ably written, a revealing window into the Le Carré-like layers of intrigue that develop when a celebrity politician who is married to another celebrity politician loses to yet another celebrity politician and goes on to serve the politician who defeated her. In reporting this story, Jonathan and Amie gained extraordinary access to the typically guarded Hillary Clinton. They were given an in-depth interview with her, and they interviewed 200 others: confidants, colleagues, critics, and outright enemies. It is my pleasure to cede the floor now to Jonathan and Amie and let them tell you what they learned about a woman who has been at the center of American political life for well more than 2 decades. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming.
And I'd like to say thank you to the National Book Festival and to Wells Fargo, Marty, for the kind introduction. And as the son of a former professor at Gallaudet University, I'd like to thank our interpreter. Can you wave? Hillary Clinton became very boring, uninteresting to news people, over the last 4, 6, 8, 10, 20 years.
He's kidding.
I'm kidding. Yeah, I'm kidding about that. It seems like every time I look at my iPhone, there's a new story about Hillary Clinton, often devoid of news. And I think we're going to have to get used to that. But I suggest and submit humbly that if you read the book, you can stop paying attention to the news reports about her for like a year and a half. And you just kind of pick up when you get into the primary season, maybe even the general election season. Do you want to say anything to open?
I think the biggest thing that I think we both came into this with certain goals. I think my personal goal was I wanted to find out how this woman who was defeated by this guy who came out of nowhere, how she came back, and how she was able to go work for him. Because that, to me, even as I was covering this campaign, I just thought, how could you do this? How could you just lose this incredible bruising primary and then go on and work for this guy and be a team player? And that, to me, was inspiring as a human being, and I just wanted to know more about that storyline.
And another, I think, driving, motivating factor for us was we looked at the time period that Hillary Clinton was at the State Department as a time period where she was covered by diplomatic reporters, foreign policy reporters, not really political reporters, and yet this is a very political person from a very political family with a real interest in potentially running for president again. And so we wanted to look back at that time period and try to put it in the context of what if she actually is running for president in 2016? And of course, when we decided to do this book in the summer of 2012, I think a lot of people thought she was going to do that. Certainly not as many people as currently do thought that. And we felt it was important to try to tell that story, to get inside the decisions that she made, the decision-making process that she has, the people who are around her. I think all of these things become important, particularly for those of us who live in Washington. We understand how the process works and why those elements are important, why the people around you are important, why the way you make decisions are important, and how those sometimes lead to the policy making. So we thought that was an important tale to tell. And I'll let Amy talk a little bit about the fun part, or what we always think is the fun part, which is the sort of campaign politics and what we were trying to get at with that.
Well, I think we wanted to, as John said, she is a very political figure, even when she tried to remain out of politics. So I think we looked at this is a woman who could run for president. We always thought, as we were writing this book, that she is running for president. And the theory became more and more true, I think, to us as we were reporting the book. But we interviewed 200 people for this book. Some people, as Marty said, were fierce enemies. Some are loyalists and aides. And we tried to tell a very accurate picture and portray an accurate picture of where she was at this point in time. And
I also would add to that just a couple of things. One is the way that we approached this once we had done a lot of the interviews was, this is somebody who's been running for president for a very, very long time. And the question isn't whether she runs for president in 2016, but whether she stops running for president in 2016. We don't see a period in the last 6 years where she was not laying the groundwork for a presidential campaign, or at least doing the things that you would do. 16,000 thank you notes went out to her supporters after the 2008 election. I think 5,000 of them were handwritten. This is somebody that has been doing all of the things you would do, up to and including, and I know a lot of people have probably heard of this anecdote from the book, but up to and including her husband going out on the primary campaign trail in state races, attorney general races, congressional races, and helping people who endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2008 in Democratic primaries against people who helped Barack Obama in 2008. So long after she started working for Barack Obama, she was still punishing his friends for opposing her through Bill Clinton. And that's one of the sort of strains that goes through this book, is how the two of them work together to keep expanding the political network, to build the family's operation all the way through the 2008 election, the 2010 election, the 2012 election, even Terry McAuliffe's election as governor of Virginia last year. And so for us, that's kind of the fun stuff, and there's a fair amount of foreign policy in there as well. And I think what we'll do now is read one of our favorite excerpts from the book, especially one that I think is good here in DC, about a time at which the clash between the Obama and Clinton camps was at its hottest and heaviest in the early days of 2009. So you can get a little context for where they were coming from. And by the way, we concluded at the end, these guys aren't going on vacation together on Martha's Vineyard. They're living in separate houses, the Obamas and the Clintons. But at the same time, this shotgun wedding of these two huge political forces in the Democratic Party and in the United States ended up being a pretty profitable one for both of them. And we'll see if that continues going forward, but up to this point, they've essentially held that together.
For the most part.
For the most
There's
part.
been some tension lately.
What, do you want to start?
Sure. This is an excerpt from part 2, and it's chapter 5, and it's called Bloom.